The Tar Heels have been great in the second half of each of the past two games. So how do we make that happen from the get-go?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea, joined by our good buddy, Coach Pat Kilby, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Want to send a special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, and of course, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Welcome in. Let's get after it. Pack, here's where we're headed today. Carolina has had a couple slow starts in the past two games. We're going to talk about that, how to get past it, why it's happening, all of that. Now, also that we're a couple weeks into the season, we got a better idea on some things. So who's Carolina's X factor? We're going to answer that question. And this time next week, Carolina is going to be in Maui. So what needs to happen to go win that event? Because that's a big important thing for the Tar Heels. It's Tuesday, so the new polls came out yesterday. Carolina's still 10th in the AP poll. They are 11th in the Locked On College Basketball poll. But also, Coach Pat Kilby, it's Tuesday, and that means it's time for Trivia Tuesday. You're usually on Wednesday, so you don't get to do this. But today, I'm going to make you answer this thing. You ready?
I'm ready.
You can think about it, and we'll answer it at the end of the show.
Okay.
I just said it, but the Maui Invitational is next week. Two very simple questions with simple answers. It's just, do you and do others know it or not? Number one, how many times has North Carolina been in the Maui Invitational, including this year? And second question, how many times have they won the Maui Invitational Championship? So, Pack, be thinking on that. Everyone else be thinking about it. Answer coming up at the end of the show. All right, let's get into this slow start that Carolina has had each of the past two games. Because, in fairness, Carolina had a better first half than second half to start the season against Elon. But against Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse, not a great start. And massive hole at halftime. And then Carolina was leading at halftime against American, but it was like, not so much. So, Pack, here's the thing. Carolina has had these slow starts, got to fix it. My question to you, why is it happening?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a tricky question. I think, a lot of that it would be, we would have to be there. With teams that I've coached in the past, we've always paid attention to, are we getting off to slow starts? Are we getting off to fast starts out of halftime? Which quarters or halves are we really struggling with? And then we try to go and implement that in practice. Like, hey, we've been struggling to start games, so we need to start making sure that we start practices fast and start building those habits. Yeah. And so I don't know, what it is. I'd be curious to see what practice looks like if it's a slow start and they get better as they go, or if they hit the ground running. And, typically as a coach, I think you have to kind of believe that what happens in practice translates to how you play. So maybe that's just something that needs to be emphasized. I'm not sure, but it definitely has to change. Even looking all the way back to the preseason scrimmage or exhibition with Memphis, that was a slow start there too. The second half was a lot better. Kansas was obviously a lot better, and American was a lot better. So we've just got to figure out how we can channel that second half success to a full 40 minutes. Yeah. And I can't help but think that stems from practice.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And Pac, let me ask this question too, as part of framing up the context for it. Is these two games of the regular season plus the Memphis, is that enough of a sample size to give you, like, as a coach, is that enough of a sample size? Like, if you were looking at your team and you would say, this is something we need to work on. Or as a coach, would you look at it and say, too small a sample size, I'm not worried about it yet, but I am going to keep my eye on it. Where would you fall?
I think I would be concerned about it, but not overly concerned. It's something that I would just be talking to my team about. Hey, let's get off to a fast start. Kelvin Sampson he says that the 4 most important minutes of a basketball game, or really the 16 most important minutes of the basketball game, the first 4 of the first half, the last 4 of the first half, first 4 of the second half, and the last 4 of the second half. So, really emphasizing that winning that 16 minutes, especially the first 4 minutes, because, typically that's when you kind of find your groove in those first 4 minutes, and you kind of set the tone for how the game's going to go. And as our competition gets stiffer, which it's going to with Maui coming up and Alabama and some big time non-con opponents coming up, we don't want to be climbing out of holes. We don't want to play that way. We don't want to live that way as a basketball team. So I would definitely not be overly concerned, but it is something I would be talking about. Hey, let's make it our goal to get off to faster starts and see if we can be the team that comes out and punches somebody in the mouth and make them play from behind, as opposed to us being the ones having to do it.
Because it doesn't, like, watching the team on the floor, it doesn't seem like there's any lack of effort, or that they're not, like sometimes with a team with a slow start, it's like, oh, you weren't ready to come out and play today. And it doesn't feel like that to me, right? Like, I feel like they're locked in and ready to go. And something I've wondered, is there a level of taking some time to diagnose what we need to do, right? Like, sometimes you think about in football, for example, like there's a different scheme or something that you're still trying to pinpoint, how do we want to attack it, or how do we want to counterattack and things like that. I wonder if there's some level of, all right, we're still trying to figure out like exactly what you're doing. And so we're operating well, but not high level efficiency at the top of our ceiling. And, it's interesting that it's both been with a high major with Kansas and with kind of a, with American with more of a mid major. But interestingly, though, something I'll say about both of those squads, Pack, is they are both older, experienced teams, right? Like, I know American isn't as talented, but they've been together and brought a lot of talent back, as did Kansas. Even though Kansas is bringing in several, they're older as well. So I wonder if that factors in at all.
Yeah, I think especially early in the season, I think there is some of that, like, hey, we need to figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it. There's some film, but there's not a lot of film, right? Because nobody's played a lot of games, and it's just everything's still kind of fresh and new. And our team's still fresh and new. Even though there's some similar pieces from last year, there's also some new pieces and different people in different roles. So there's definitely some figuring out to do. But one thing I will add, kind of going back to what you were talking about a minute ago when you were saying it doesn't feel like an effort issue. And I agree with you, it doesn't. I do sometimes think, though, with our athleticism and our speed, we should maybe come out and see if we can turn the other team over a couple times, like pressure them, get after them a little bit, and create some easy defense into offense for ourselves, and get some momentum going, which I would like to see us do more of. We haven't done that yet. And maybe coach is sitting on that and he's waiting. And if that's the case, that's perfect. But I would like to see us do a little bit more of that. But yeah, there's definitely some newness for us, and we don't have a ton of film on opponents. So it's like, we do have to fill them out and see what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, I really like that, because you're taking what I'm saying and pushing it even further. Like, I'm basically saying, I don't think they look lethargic or unprepared, but it's like they're playing and they're ready to go. You're saying not only that, I would like to see them like attack. And what I like about that, Pack, if I can build on what you're saying, is North Carolina's biggest strength, and their 3 leading scorers, who are all averaging 15 or more points, are the 3G starting guards, and of Elliot, RJ, and Seth. And so how do you utilize your biggest weapon right out of the gate? Like, stun the other team with your quick strike attack, like an animal would do that's hunting its prey. And so I really like that, because I was even processing what needs to happen to change this. And I think your example there of what Carolina could do would go a long way to helping that. That said, is there anything else, Pack, that you would want to add on of like, hey, what do you foresee the Tar Heels need to do? I know you talked about maybe at practice getting going a little faster. Anything else you would add to this, though, to help mitigate and change what we've seen the last 2 games?
Well, I don't think I would add really anything more.
Okay.
I think it'd just be something I would talk about. Make sure you emphasize it in the way you practice, and then have that mentality of being attack first as soon as that ball tips off. And to be honest, I think that's probably good because, like I said a minute ago, you don't want to overreact to it because it
Sure.
is still early and it is a small sample size. You just want to make sure that you address things that could help your team be better, and I think that is one of them.
Right on. Well, it may be early, as we said, but we can already see some personnel trends as well as some game script trends. These things are starting to develop. So we want to go ahead and say, all right. So we made some preseason predictions and other things about X factors and MVPs and other stuff like that. But right now, as we look at it, who is the X factor for the 24-25 Tar Heels? We'll answer that question in just a second. Right after I tell you about Roy. Hey, Locked On Tar Heels fans, listen up, because right now you need to go download the Roy app. You've heard us talk about Roy this season and how they're revolutionizing the NIL industry. Well, Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets the NIL money. And here's what I absolutely love about it. You get your money back if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our team intact, and it's actually good for the game long term. You've seen all of these Tar Heels that have done so well this football season, man, it's been great. Well, you can show your support for them by depositing a little appreciation onto some of these accounts. Again, to do that, download the Roy app and you can see what the logo looks like and go check that out. So I want to highlight the Roy Locked On Player of the Week for this week. And folks, I don't know how it could be anyone other than Omarion Hampton and his career high 244 rushing yards. I mean, it was absolutely bonkers what he did Saturday against Wake. So we're going to throw some money into his account on Roy. Every contribution counts, 10, 20 bucks, whatever it is. It adds up and really helps with showing some love to Omarion. So download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use promo code Locked On. Every athlete from every team is there. There's no purchase necessary. It's void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players, change the game. This episode's also brought to you by Game Time. Man, college basketball is here, you guys. There's nothing better than the great atmosphere of a college basketball game. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, we had that game at Allen Fieldhouse. The Maui vibes are going to be strong next week. Cannot wait to see that. You just never know what's going to happen. And maybe you want to be there in person to experience what others can't. Thankfully, there's a ticketing app called Game Time that helps you get great tickets at a great price. And right now, when you pick up your tickets for this year, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks with curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, but also concerts, music, theater, so much more. Whether it's Game Time ticket coverage, the lowest price guarantee, or the panoramic views from your seat right there in the app, Game Time's got you covered. Carolina hosts Alabama here in just a couple weeks. You can get in the door for $57. Man, that's a great deal for a game of this magnitude. And if you want to go bigger, get into the lower level, you can do so for under $200, man. Not too shabby. Go check it all out. Keep tabs on it as it gets closer to the game. You never know when it might fall even further. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. Pack, before we move on to this X Factor conversation, I did remember one more point as I was doing the ad reads that I wanted to make about the fast and slow starts. How much of a factor, because the offense has been feeling like they've been, even in the game that was oh man, American, it didn't look so great. Well, he still scored 43 points in that half, right? So the offense feels like it's showing up. It feels like at least part of this conversation is about something that I discussed on Monday's show, and that's Carolina figuring out their defensive identity more quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying. I feel like even back to the Elon game, I don't feel like we've found a true defensive identity in ourselves yet. And I don't think we're anywhere close right now to where we're going to be. And so to me, I think, and I think a lot of it too is the coaching staff is probably trying to fill this out and figure this out because we are smaller than we've ever been.
Yep.
And we have different skill sets than we've ever had. as far as the way we want to play. And so I think it's probably a lot of trying to fill it out, but I do think and expect us to be a lot more aggressive defensively moving forward. And I think once we kind of find that niche and we get comfortable in that, we'll start to see the defense turn into offense early and start to help us figure out those faster starts.
Pat, what's funny is I just realized this last night while I was looking around KenPom at a few statistical things. Carolina right now is 5th in all of Division I in steal percentage at 4.4 steals a game. I mean, that is pretty bonkers because Carolina, we don't think of them typically as a team that has a whole bunch of steals. And so that's really, I said 4.4 steals a game. That's incorrect. 4.4 percent is the steal percentage. Excuse me. That's a very different thing. I was like, that's a low number, and it is, but it's the percentage. And so really good stuff there for the Heels. We'll see if that the quick hands, the rangy athleticism can do work. All right, Pac, let's move on to this X Factor conversation as we start to look at this. And I know, again, we're 3 games in, so we don't know everything, but we're starting to gain an understanding of some things, and we can project ahead based on what we're seeing right now. So, Pac, here's my question. To this point in the season, who has been Carolina's X Factor, and who is it going to be season long? It might even be the same person. What is your thought?
Yeah, so when I watched Carolina going into the year, I was like, oh, Seth Trimble is going to be our X Factor. But what's funny is I've kind of gotten to the point where he's not really an X Factor. I mean, he's definitely
beyond that. Yeah.
But we've just gotten to the point where we expect what we expect, and we think he's going to be pretty good. So, I don't really view him as an X Factor. And then I kind of battled with myself, is Jalen Withers an X Factor? Is Jalen Washington an X Factor? And certainly they are, because I don't view them quite as consistent as I do like Seth or Elliot or RJ. But where I'm going with this is I think Drake is our X Factor.
Okay.
And I think he's been our X Factor, and I think he's going to show himself even more to be that as the season goes on. Golly, he just makes plays sometimes you're like, just blow your mind. And he's so good defensively, and the way he guards is, I think he takes a load off of Seth's shoulders. Like we view Seth more as a two-way player now. He contributes defensively, but he also shoulders a load offensively now. Whereas Drake can come in and he can shut people down and kind of take a load off of Seth. But where I think he becomes a major X Factor moving forward is I anticipate him being better and better and better offensively as the year goes on and as he gets more comfortable. And we better enjoy him while we have him, because I don't think he's going to be here much longer. He is a pro prospect through and through, and I think that's going to shine through as the year goes on.
I love this call, Pack, and that's exactly who I'm thinking of as well. I like you talking about the Jalen's. One thing I would even slightly push back on, and I talked about this some yesterday, that Jalen Withers, this is our big thing about him, is can he be consistent? So far in the regular season, he has been to that, but like looking back to last year, that is not the case. And so I'm with you in that regard, Pack. But man, I think you're spot on here that Drake Powell, I think, is going to be Carolina's X Factor. And here would be my main reason for it. Drake Powell's versatility allows him to shine in whatever way Carolina needs him to shine in a given game, like almost like a chameleon would be able to do. And by that, I mean, whether it's leading the team in rebounding as he did against American, whether it's blocks or scoring, getting to the rim, facilitating, leading the break, whatever it is, whatever a certain game calls for, his skill set's going to allow him to do almost anything to make winning plays to put Carolina in the W column instead of the loss column. And to me, that almost defines an X Factor, like in a Swiss Army knife sort of way. But not like, when you think like utility guy for a baseball team, it's like, yeah, you're not that great, but you can fill in a whole bunch of positions. Man, I think Drake brings so much to the table at whatever it is that he's doing.
100%. And, he kind of reminds me of this team. Obviously turned out to be pretty good, but in 2005, the national championship team, when we were bringing Marvin Williams off the bench, Now, Marvin and Drake aren't the same player, but
correct. Yeah.
kind of the same feel of like, hey, we're bringing in an NBA lottery draft pick off the bench, and he's going to impact the game somehow, some way, in Carolina's favor. And that's what makes me feel so good about him is exactly what you just talked about. He is a Swiss Army knife. He can rebound, he can defend, he can get deflections, he can get steals. He's good in transition. He finishes well. He can knock down shots. He can really contribute in a ton of ways. And I love I feel like he brings a different level of intensity off the bench too. Like he's comfortable in his role, and when he gets out there, he's ready to rock. And so I really like that about him. I think he just brings a different edge and level of capability and ability, to the game off of the bench for us, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right with you. When he checks into a game, I kind of start holding my breath of like, what's about to happen? Like we just talked about it with the game time read, but like, man, that's what's so exciting about these college basketball players at such a high level is like, man, anything could happen right now, and we're going to be witness to it. And so, man, yeah, I love what he brings to the game. So, gang, we'd love to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree with our assessment there of Drake Powell as Carolina's X factor for this season? Well, this time next week, when we're talking Tar Heels, we're going to be talking Maui Invitational because they will be there playing. What exactly is it that the Tar Heels need to do to go win this whole thing against a loaded field? We'll get you ready for that and our Tuesday trivia answer coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mint Mobile. I love a good deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. That's insane. It's got to be easy, no hoops to jump through. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for just $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider to get into this Mint Mobile situation. To get started, you just go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Man, that's the thing I'm always worried about is like, do I need a new number? What happens to all that? No, you're great. So go find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds are slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan, and additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Heck, we're going to do our Maui preview next Monday, so that's not what I want to get into right now, other than to say 4 of the 8 teams in this field are top 10 right now. UConn, Auburn, and Iowa State. I think they're 2, 4, and 5, and then Carolina number 10. So this is going to be a loaded field. It's going to be great, but insanely difficult for the Tar Heels to win. So, Pack, very simple question that I want us both to answer. For North Carolina to win the 2024 Maui Invitational, they need to fill in the blank.
They need to utilize their depth. And here's where I'm going with that. We just got through talking about Drake, and we didn't even mention the other guys that come off of the bench, Vin Lubin, Ian Jackson, that crew. So to me, I think we need to utilize our depth. The Maui is a tough tournament. It's a really tough tournament. And it's a loaded field. There's a lot of good teams. And this is where I think that our depth is really crucial. And Hubert, so far, to his credit, one of our concerns was how is he going to utilize this team that's so deep? We've got 9 players in double-digit minutes right now. Now, it's early, so we'll see how that trend continues. But I like the way we've been using our depth, and I think we need to rely heavily on them as we go through this tournament and wear teams down. You talk about playing 3 days against 3 top-tier opponents. Eventually, you are going to wear down, and that's where our depth can shine through. So we need our depth to step up, we need to utilize them well. And I think that if we do that, that gives us a great chance to win the Maui.
Especially because, like Auburn, for example, Bruce Pearl plays a ton of depth all the time, right? So it's not just Carolina trying to do that to other teams. It's like Auburn, you expect to be a very fresh team. Also, one of the issues for the Tar Heels is it's not just these 3 games. It's the Hawaii game at Hawaii on Friday night, Saturday Eastern time, Friday night local time. So really, Carolina is not just playing these 3 games in 3 days. They're playing 4 games in 6 days, Pack. So all this wear and tear. And Hawaii is undefeated right now. So it's not like they're some random pushover. I mean, Carolina should win that game, but it's a true road game. And so there's a lot that factors into this. Here's the very funny thing, Pack. For me, I had literally written mine out. For North Carolina to win Maui, they need to wear teams out. And what's funny is I mean it in a very similar way to you, but there is a subtle nuance that I want to put on it. Because to me, it's about playing the depth, but it's also about doing what you said earlier. Using that depth, not just in terms of like, yeah, we're playing more guys, but I mean it in terms of like, we talked a lot this offseason about, does Carolina have some defensive wrinkles they're going to roll out? I want to see it in Maui. Maybe not against Dayton in the first game, but you're either playing Auburn or Iowa State in the second game, and you're either going to face Auburn's depth or Iowa State's tenacious defense, which, by the way, Auburn plays tenacious defense as well now. And so, like, for me, it's about, okay, so let's go attack them. We right now, as I said, are 5th in the nation in steal percentage. Utilize it. Get in there and attack these dudes. What else is Carolina really good at? Well, right now they're 14th in the nation in adjusted tempo. Run. So it's, yes, utilize that depth, but do it for the purpose of getting into the other team's legs and make them beg for mercy, man. That's what I want to see out of this team. So I love that we're so similarly aligned on this answer.
Yeah, totally agree. We need to utilize our athleticism, make teams pay, and wear them down. I like it.
Okay, Pat Kilby, Tuesday trivia. Let's get to our question, and then I want to see if you got the answer for us. Maui Invitational, we've just been talking about it, including this year right now. How many times has Carolina been in this event? So we'll start with that question, and then we'll move to the other one. Pat, what do you think is the answer? How many times?
16.
16. It's lower than that. The answer is 9. Carolina has played in the Maui Invitational in 89, 95, 99, 04, 08, 12, 16, 20, and 24. So it's been on a regular 4-year cycle ever since the 2004-05 season. So there you go. You're slightly high there, Pack.
Yeah.
Let's redeem yourself here. I don't want to, I don't want it to be an O for day for you. How many of those previous 8 times has North Carolina won the Maui championship?
4.
Woo! Redemption, my man. Spot on with 4. It was the 99 Maui Invitational. That's the 99-2000 season. 04, which is the 04-05 season. 08, which is 08-09 season. And 16, which is the 16-17 season. The reason I say all of that is because you probably fondly remember, folks, all 4 of those NCAA tournaments very well. What do they have in common? All 4 of them, Carolina at least made the Final Four. And obviously then in 3 of those seasons went on to win the national championship, 05, 09, 17. So all that to say, I bring this up because historical fact says that if Carolina wins this Maui championship, which would be something, because both Auburn and Iowa State are on Carolina's side, UConn's on the other side of the bracket, and Dayton is no pushover to kick things off. If Carolina should win this thing, it portends great stuff and means that historically they're going to at least make the Final Four this year. And so, Pac, that's great news for the Tar Heels.
Absolutely. Let's go win it.
Let's go win this thing, man. Why not? Let's embarrass people. By the way, I think we're going to do a Locked On roundtable where the hosts that have a team in Maui Invitational, we're going to do like a little roundtable show together later this week. And so that should be a lot of fun. I think we're going to be able to pull that together, but we're going to have to wait and see. So, folks, great time to be together today with myself and Coach Pat Kilby. Thank you for joining us. If you're not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels, do so on video and audio right now so you don't miss a second of the show. If you're not joined into the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, the link for that's in the show notes. It's free to join. We'd love to have you. Great conversation all the time. And finally, if you want to go more in depth, join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders It's a great thing, and you get to chat with me one-on-one amongst a whole bunch of other perks. All right, folks, you know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, Coach Pack Kilby, tell them.
Peace.